Your thoughts are not harmless. They are not random, and they are not innocent. Every thought you allow to live inside your mind is quietly shaping the direction of your life, whether you realize it or not. Right now, in this very moment, thousands of thoughts are passing through your mind. Some are whispers, some are loud. Some feel familiar, even comforting. Others feel heavy, anxious, or urgent. But here is the truth most people never confront. Your thoughts are not happening to you. They are happening because of you. And that changes everything. Because if your thoughts are shaping your emotions, and your emotions are shaping your actions, and your actions are shaping your destiny, then the quality of your life is not determined by luck, circumstances, or other people. It is determined by the thoughts you allow to repeat. Welcome to Master Your Thoughts, Master Your Life. This audiobook is not about pretending everything is fine. It is not about toxic positivity. It is not about forcing yourself to think happy thoughts. This is about control, real control, the kind that separates those who drift through life from those who design it. Most people live inside their minds like prisoners. They wake up already anxious. They replay the same worries. They argue with people who aren't there. They relive moments that already ended. They fear futures that haven't happened. And they call this normal. But it isn't normal. It's unconscious. And unconscious thinking is the most expensive habit you will ever have. Because every unexamined thought silently steals your focus, your energy, your confidence, and your future. This audiobook will teach you how to take it back. Dear friend, you are definitely on the right track if you are watching this video. Like, subscribe, and write in the comments which topic or problem concerns you the most. We promise to prepare a professional video explanation at your request. Chapter 1. The Silent War. Inside your mind. There is a war happening inside you right now. Not between you and the world. Not between you and other people. But between you and your thoughts. Most people lose this war without ever realizing it was happening. They assume the voice in their head is them. They believe every thought that appears. They obey every emotion that follows. But here is the first truth you must understand. You are not your thoughts. If you were, who would be listening to them right now? There is a deeper awareness beneath the noise. A watcher, an observer. And that observer, that awareness, is the real you. Your thoughts are events, passing signals, electrical patterns firing inside the brain. Yet most people treat them like commands. A thought says, "You're not good enough," and they believe it. A thought says, "This is too hard," and they quit. A thought says, "Something bad will happen," and they panic. Thoughts become rulers, and the mind becomes a dictatorship. But it doesn't have to be that way. The moment you realize you can observe your thoughts instead of obeying them, the balance of power shifts. Awareness is the first weapon. Chapter 2. Why most people are trapped in mental loops. The average person thinks the same thoughts today that they thought yesterday. And tomorrow, they'll think them again. Same fears, same doubts, same internal conversations, different days, same mind. This is called a mental loop. And loops don't lead anywhere new. They only circle the past. Your brain is efficient, but efficiency is dangerous when it comes to thinking. Whatever you repeat, the brain strengthens. Whatever you avoid, the brain weakens. Over time, thoughts become automatic. Not because they are true, but because they are familiar. Familiar feels safe, even when it's destroying you. This is why people stay stuck in patterns they hate. Why they repeat the same mistakes. Why they sabotage progress the moment it begins. Their mind is running old software, and no one ever taught them how to update it. Chapter 3. The Cost of Uncontrolled Thinking. Uncontrolled thoughts don't just stay in your head. They leak. They affect your posture, your tone of voice, your decisions, your relationships. They decide whether you speak up or stay silent, whether you try or hesitate, whether you grow or stay comfortable. Every success story you admire began with controlled thinking. Every failure you fear began with uncontrolled thinking. People don't fail because they aren't capable. They fail because their mind talks them out of becoming who they could be. And the tragedy is this: most people never realize their thoughts were the enemy. They blame circumstances. They blame luck. They blame timing. But the truth is simpler and harder. Their thoughts were never trained. Chapter 4. The moment you take back control. The moment you realize that thoughts can be chosen, not just experienced, your life begins to change. Not overnight, not magically, but fundamentally. You stop asking, "Why am I like this?" and start asking, "Why am I thinking this?" That question alone creates space. And space creates power. Because in that space, you can pause, you can decide, you can redirect, you can say, "This thought does not serve me. This thought is old. This thought is not the truth." And then, this is crucial. You replace it, not with fantasy, but with intention. Chapter 5. What this audiobook will give you. In this audiobook, you will learn how to separate yourself from destructive thought patterns, how to stop negative loops before they spiral, how to reprogram your internal dialogue, how to build mental discipline that lasts, how to think clearly under pressure, how to control emotional reactions at the source, how to design a mind that works for you, not against you. This is not motivation. This is mental architecture. Because once you control your thoughts, discipline becomes easier, focus becomes sharper, confidence becomes natural, and life starts responding differently to you. Right now, you stand at a threshold. Most people turn back here because self-mastery is uncomfortable. But if you continue, you will never see your mind the same way again. And once you see it, you can no longer be controlled by it. In the next chapter, we go deeper into the hidden mechanics of the brain and why awareness alone is not enough. This is where real control begins. Chapter 6. Why awareness is not enough and what actually changes your mind. Awareness is powerful, but awareness alone will not save you. Most people become aware of their negative thoughts and still remain trapped by them. They notice the anxiety. They recognize the self-doubt. They can even name the patterns. Yet nothing changes. Why? Because awareness without direction becomes observation without action. You can watch a fire burn your house down and still lose everything. Awareness is the doorway. Control is the discipline that walks through it. This is where most people fail. They think that once they understand their mind, the problem is solved. It isn't. Understanding is passive. Reprogramming is active. And the brain does not change through insight alone. It changes through repetition under emotional pressure. Your brain is not logical first. It is emotional first. That's why knowing something doesn't stop you from repeating it. You know what you should do, but knowledge does not override emotional conditioning. Only training does. Chapter 6. Your brain is a prediction machine. Your brain's primary job is not happiness. It is survival. To survive, it predicts. It constantly asks, what usually happens next? And then it prepares you for that outcome. If you've repeatedly thought, "I fail when I try," your brain predicts failure. It doesn't care if that belief is outdated. It only cares that it's familiar. Familiar equals predictable. Predictable equals safe, even when it hurts you. This is why people stay in emotional patterns that feel painful but known. The brain would rather choose a known pain than an unknown possibility. That's why change feels threatening. Not because it's wrong, but because it's unfamiliar. Chapter 7. The loop you must break. First, most people try to control their thoughts directly. They say, "Stop thinking negatively." That almost never works, because thoughts are the end of a process, not the beginning. Thoughts come from focus. What you focus on grows. What you repeat strengthens. So the real question is not, what am I thinking? It is, what am I focusing on repeatedly without realizing it? Your environment feeds your mind. Your conversations feed your mind, your habits feed your mind, your media feeds your mind, and your mind becomes what it consumes. You cannot think your way out of an environment that reinforces the same patterns. This is not weakness. This is biology. Chapter 8. Thought control is attention. Control. You don't control thoughts by fighting them. You control them by redirecting attention. Attention is energy. Where attention goes, neural pathways grow. This is why discipline is mental before it is physical. You don't need to eliminate negative thoughts. You need to starve them. Every time you refuse to engage, argue, or emotionally react, you weaken that pattern. Every time you shift attention deliberately, you build a new one. This is not instant, but it is permanent when done consistently. Chapter 9. The power of the mental pause. Friend, write your opinion on this topic in the comments. Do you agree with us or not? I'm interested to hear your thoughts. There is a moment, small, almost invisible, between a thought and a reaction. That moment is where control lives. Most people never notice it. They react automatically. Thought, emotion, action. But when you insert a pause, the sequence breaks. The pause is not silence. It is choice. In that pause, you ask, is this thought useful right now? Does reacting serve my future self? Who am I becoming if I follow this impulse? That pause rewires identity, because identity is built through repeated choices, not intentions. Chapter 10. Why discipline starts in the mind. People think discipline is forcing yourself. It's not. Discipline is reducing internal resistance. When your thoughts are aligned, action becomes natural. When your thoughts are chaotic, every action feels heavy. Mental clarity creates momentum. This is why controlling your thoughts is not about positivity. It's about efficiency. A focused mind wastes less energy. And energy is life. You are beginning to see the structure now. Thoughts are not enemies. They are signals. And once you learn how to interpret and redirect them, they stop controlling you. In the next chapter, we will go deeper into emotional triggers and why certain thoughts hijack you instantly. This is where mastery becomes real. Chapter 11. Emotional hijacking. Why certain thoughts control you instantly. Some thoughts don't ask permission. They don't arrive gently. They don't wait to be evaluated. They hijack you. One sentence, one memory, one imagined future. And suddenly your heart rate changes, your breathing tightens, your posture shifts. Logic disappears. This is not weakness. This is biology. Your brain is wired to react emotionally before it thinks rationally. That system kept your ancestors alive. But in the modern world, it keeps people trapped because the threats are no longer predators. They are internal. Chapter 11. The emotional brain versus the thinking brain. Inside your mind, there are two primary systems constantly interacting. The emotional brain reacts fast. The thinking brain reacts slow. The emotional brain asks, is this dangerous? The thinking brain asks, is this true? When emotional intensity spikes, the thinking brain goes offline. That's why you say things you regret. Why you overreact. Why you self-sabotage when pressure appears. You don't lose intelligence. You lose access to it. This is called emotional hijacking. And until you learn how to interrupt it, your thoughts will never truly be under your control. Chapter 12. Why certain thoughts have power over you. Not all thoughts affect you equally. Some pass by unnoticed, others feel explosive. The difference is emotional memory. Your brain tags certain experiences with emotion, fear, shame, embarrassment, failure. Later, when a similar thought appears, your brain reacts as if the original event is happening again. The body doesn't know the difference between a real threat and a remembered one. That's why imagined futures feel real. That's why old memories still hurt. And that's why some thoughts seem impossible to ignore. They're not thoughts. They're emotional triggers. Chapter 13. The mistake that makes emotional control impossible. Most people try to reason with emotional thoughts. They argue with them. They explain. They justify. That fails. Because emotion doesn't respond to logic in the moment. It responds to regulation. Before you can think clearly, you must calm the nervous system. Control the body first. Then the mind follows. This is the order. Ignore it, and you stay trapped. Chapter 14. Regaining control in the heat of the moment. When an emotional thought hijacks you, do not ask, "Is this true?" Ask, "What state am I in?" Slow your breathing, relax your jaw, lower your shoulders. These are not small details. They send signals to the brain that the threat has passed. Once the body calms, clarity returns. Only then do you evaluate the thought. This is control, not suppression, not denial, mastery. Chapter 15. Rewriting emotional associations. You don't erase emotional memories, you overwrite them. By responding differently enough times, every time you face a trigger without reacting the old way, you weaken its power. Every calm response rewrites the association. This is slow, but it is permanent. And it is how resilient people are made. Right now, you are learning something most people never do. You are learning that thought control is not force. It is training. And in the next chapter, we will talk about the most dangerous thoughts of all. The ones that pretend to be logical while quietly keeping you small. Chapter 15. The most dangerous thoughts are the ones that sound logical. If you appreciate our efforts and our thoughts, subscribe and like this video. We need to show the world that there are many people like us. We must always continue to improve. The thoughts that ruin lives are rarely dramatic. They don't scream. They don't panic. They don't sound irrational. They sound reasonable. They sound mature. They sound cautious. They sound intelligent. And that is exactly why they are dangerous. These are the thoughts that say, "Now isn't the right time. Let me think about it a little more. I'll start when things calm down. I need more information. I just want to be realistic." These thoughts don't feel negative. They feel responsible, but slowly, quietly, they steal momentum. They disguise fear as logic, and they keep you trapped in preparation instead of progress. Chapter 16. When thinking becomes avoidance. There is a difference between thinking and avoiding. Thinking moves you forward. Avoidance keeps you comfortable. The problem is that avoidance often dresses like intelligence. You analyze instead of act. You plan instead of begin. You research instead of commit. And you call it discipline. But deep down, something feels off. Because no matter how much you think, nothing changes. That's how you know a thought has become a hiding place. Chapter 17. The illusion of. One day. One day is the most expensive word in the human vocabulary. It costs people years. One day I'll be confident. One day I'll take control. One day I'll change my habits. One day I'll become disciplined. One day feels hopeful, but it has no deadline. And what has no deadline rarely happens. Your mind loves vague timelines. They remove pressure. They postpone responsibility. And they create the illusion of progress without any risk. But growth requires friction. Discomfort is the entrance fee. Chapter 18. How the mind protects the old identity. Your mind is loyal, not to your future, to your identity. Whatever version of yourself you've repeated long enough, your mind will defend. Even if that identity is anxious, even if it's insecure, even if it's self-sabotaging. Change threatens identity, and identity fights back with thoughts. Thoughts like, "That's not really you. You've never been that kind of person. People will judge you." These are not truths. They are defenses. Your mind trying to keep itself familiar. Chapter 19. Identity is the root of thought patterns. You don't think the way you think because of your circumstances. You think the way you think because of who you believe you are. Someone who believes they are disciplined doesn't debate showing up. Someone who believes they are resilient doesn't panic at difficulty. Thoughts follow identity, change identity, and thoughts rearrange automatically. That is why affirmations fail when identity remains untouched. You cannot convince yourself into a new self-image. You must act your way into it. Chapter 20. The smallest action breaks the strongest. Thought. Thoughts feel powerful until action interrupts them. One small action done immediately can collapse hours of mental resistance. You don't need motivation, you need movement. Action sends a message to the brain. I am the kind of person who acts. And the brain adjusts its thoughts accordingly. This is how control is built. Not by overpowering thoughts, but by proving them wrong through behavior. Right now, you may be noticing something subtle. The mind doesn't change first, you move first, and the mind follows. In the next chapter, we will talk about how to design your inner dialogue. So the voice in your head becomes an ally instead of an obstacle. This is where mastery turns permanent. Chapter 21. Reprogramming your inner voice. Turning the mind into an ally. There is a voice inside your head that never stops talking. It narrates your life, interprets events, judges outcomes, predicts futures. For most people, that voice is not kind. It criticizes more than it encourages. It doubts more than it supports. It questions your strength before it questions the obstacle. And over time, that voice becomes familiar. So familiar that people stop noticing it. They assume it's just who they are. But here is a truth that changes everything. Your inner voice is not your identity. It is a habit. And like any habit, it can be retrained. Chapter 21. Why your inner voice sounds the way it does. Your inner dialogue did not appear randomly. It was shaped by parents, by teachers, by past failures, by repeated emotional experiences. Every time you reacted to yourself with judgment, the voice learned. Every time you spoke harshly to yourself after a mistake, the voice memorized the tone. Over time, it became automatic. Not because it's true, but because it was rehearsed. The brain repeats what it has heard most often, especially when emotion is attached. Chapter 22. The inner voice controls behavior. More than motivation. People believe motivation drives action. It doesn't. Self-talk does. The words you say to yourself determine whether effort feels possible or impossible. If your inner voice says, "This is too much," your body resists. If it says, "I can handle discomfort," your body adapts. Same task, different internal narration, different outcome. This is why two people can face the same challenge and respond completely differently. They are not reacting to the situation, they are reacting to their internal script. Chapter 23. The rule of neutral reprogramming. Most people try to fix their inner voice with positivity. That fails, because the mind rejects what feels false. If you tell yourself, "I am amazing," when you don't believe it, the mind resists. Reprogramming works through neutral strength, not hype. Instead of, "I will never fail again," say, "I can recover quickly." Instead of, "I'm fearless," say, "I can act even when I feel fear." These statements don't argue with reality. They expand it. They build trust. And trust is how the inner voice changes. Chapter 24. Speaking to yourself, like a leader. Imagine how a strong leader speaks under pressure. They don't panic. They don't insult their team. They don't catastrophize. They give clear instructions, calm, direct, grounded. That is how you must learn to speak to yourself, not emotionally, not dramatically, strategically. Slow down. Focus on the next step. Breathe and execute. This tone rewires authority, because the mind listens to confidence, not volume. Chapter 25. Repetition creates belief. Belief is not created by conviction. It is created by repetition paired with action. When your inner voice speaks consistently and your behavior follows, the mind accepts the new identity. This is not self-deception. This is conditioning. You are teaching your brain how to interpret reality. And once the interpretation changes, your emotional experience changes with it. At this stage, something important is happening. Your thoughts are no longer running wild. Your emotions are no longer hijacking you. Your inner voice is becoming intentional. This is where most people stop, but mastery requires one more layer. In the next chapter, we will address mental discipline under pressure, when stress, fatigue, and uncertainty test everything you've built. This is where control becomes unbreakable. Chapter 26. Mental discipline under pressure. Control when it matters most. Controlling your thoughts when life is calm is easy. Anyone can think clearly when nothing is at stake. Anyone can stay positive when conditions are perfect. But real mastery is revealed under pressure. When you are tired, when you are overwhelmed, when things go wrong, when the outcome matters. That is when the mind tries to take shortcuts. That is when old patterns attempt to return. And that is when most people lose control, not because they are weak, but because they never trained for stress. Chapter 26. Pressure exposes your mental defaults. Pressure doesn't create new thoughts. It exposes your defaults. When stress rises, the brain reverts to whatever patterns are most familiar. If your default is panic, you panic. If your default is avoidance, you freeze. If your default is self-criticism, you spiral. This is why preparation matters more than motivation. You don't rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of your training. Mental discipline is not built in moments of crisis. It is built beforehand. Chapter 27. Fatigue is the enemy of thought control. When you are exhausted, your ability to regulate thoughts drops dramatically. This is not a character flaw, it's neurological. Self-control requires energy. When energy is low, impulses rise. This is why bad decisions happen late at night, why doubt appears when you're worn down, why anxiety grows when you skip rest. Thought mastery requires respect for recovery. A disciplined mind is not an overworked mind. It is a maintained mind. Chapter 28. The 3 rules of thought control. Under stress. When pressure hits, simplify. Rule 1. Narrow your focus. Do not think about everything. Think about the next step only. Rule 2. Lower emotional intensity. Slow the breath. Relax the body. Calm precedes clarity. Rule 3. Use command language. Short, direct instructions to yourself. No debates, no analysis. Breathe. Stand tall. Execute. This keeps the thinking brain online. Chapter 29. Why resilient minds don't eliminate stress. Strong minds don't avoid stress. They adapt to it. Stress is feedback. It shows you where growth is happening. Trying to eliminate stress leads to stagnation. Learning to operate inside stress creates resilience. The goal is not calm at all times. The goal is control, regardless of conditions. Chapter 30. Turning setbacks into mental training. Every setback is an opportunity to train thought control. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen?" ask, "How do I respond intentionally?" Your response rewires the brain, not the event. This is how people become mentally unshakable. They don't need things to go right. They trust themselves to respond well. At this point in the audiobook, you have built a foundation. You understand awareness, attention, emotion, identity, inner dialogue, discipline under pressure. But there is still one deeper layer. In the next chapter, we will address the thoughts you don't even notice, the unconscious assumptions that quietly shape your entire life. This is where control becomes total. Chapter 31. The invisible thoughts running your life. Some thoughts shout, others whisper, but the most powerful thoughts are silent. They don't appear as sentences. They don't announce themselves. They don't feel like thoughts at all. They feel like reality. These are assumptions, and assumptions are the deepest layer of mental programming. You don't argue with them. You don't question them. You simply live from them. And because they operate below awareness, they quietly shape everything. Chapter 31. Assumptions are stronger than beliefs. Beliefs can be debated. Assumptions are accepted. A belief says, I think this is true. An assumption says, this is just how things are. I'm bad with money. People can't be trusted. Success requires suffering. I always mess things up. These don't feel like opinions. They feel like facts, and the brain treats them as instructions. Chapter 32. How Assumptions Create Self-Fulfilling Realities. The brain looks for evidence to confirm what it assumes. If you assume rejection, you notice disapproval. If you assume failure, you interpret setbacks as proof. If you assume scarcity, you miss opportunity. Reality bends around expectation, not because the world changes, but because perception narrows. You don't see everything. You see what aligns with your assumptions, and what you see determines how you act. Chapter 33. The question that exposes hidden assumptions. Please like and subscribe if you want a better future for your children, your family, and yourself. It's very difficult to achieve success today, but I'm sure you'll succeed. All you have to do is learn and discover new things. To uncover an assumption, ask, what must I believe for this reaction to make sense? If you hesitate, ask again. What am I assuming is true right now? This question creates cracks in unconscious certainty. And once an assumption is exposed, it loses its power, because assumptions survive only in darkness. Chapter 34. Replacing assumptions without fighting them. You don't destroy assumptions by attacking them. You replace them by testing alternatives. Instead of saying, this assumption is wrong, say, what if something else is possible? Curiosity is non-threatening, and the brain allows it. Small experiments weaken old assumptions faster than arguments. If this audiobook resonated with you, anchor it. Leave a comment with one sentence. The thought pattern I am releasing is, and if you want to continue building this discipline, focus, emotional control, identity, mental strength. Subscribe, not for motivation, but for mastery. Because the moment you truly understand this truth, your life can never be the same again. When you master your thoughts, you master your life.